BYU basketball in action tonight. They dropped to number 20 this week in the rankings, but they are now one of 8 Big 12 teams that's ranked in the top 25 this week, folks. This is the best basketball conference in the country, bar none. It's awesome to see, and BYU's right in the thick of it. Got a big win on Saturday over UCF to get themselves into the win column in Big 12 play, and now have a chance tonight when Iowa State comes to town to right this ship and get back to 500 in Big 12 play. Now, this is an interesting matchup because Iowa State is a defensive-centric team, similar to a Baylor or a UCF, where they really want to slow it down and make life miserable for you. The thing about this was the Big 12 is there's a lot of elite defensive teams in this conference, none more so than Iowa State and Houston, it feels like. Those two have been ranked in the top 5 in terms of pretty much all defensive metrics all season long. I think they were 1-2 for a little while there, if not just maybe even last week they were 1-2 in those rankings, if I recall correctly. But BYU has got one of the more prolific offenses, if you will, according to the numbers in the Big 12. So this comes down to, it feels like, can BYU's offense overcome Iowa State's defense, or is the Iowa State defense, the Cyclones defense, going to be able to stifle BYU on their home court? I'm hoping it's more of the former, but the latter is very much a real possibility because this is an Iowa State team that is allowing opponents to shoot just 38%, just a shade over 38% from the field overall this season. That's not a great number. That's a great defensive number if you're the Iowa State Cyclones, but BYU is going to have to overcome that. The nice part is BYU is back in the home-friendly confines of the Marriott Center, expecting to have a pretty good-sized crowd on hand. I'm not expecting a sellout because I keep seeing a bunch of tweets on social media from Greg Wrubell and others saying that there are a number of seats available. I want to give a big shout out to our good friend Bud, who's a member of the Subtext community, who's going to tonight's game with our tickets from Locked On Cougars. I bought a pair for the season and been rewarding our Subtext community as a way to send you guys out to the games, and Bud will be going out there, so enjoy that. But this is a huge opportunity for BYU. You get back to 500 in a Big 12 play. You notch yet another quad 1 win. The crazy thing about this is we talk all about quad 1 wins and what those are for those of you who may not be paying attention. The NCAA has a thing called their net rating, and now they have put this out there, puts together a bunch of metrics and spits out the rankings in terms of what they call the net ratings. So those are the best teams top to bottom in the country, and they spit them out on a weekly basis, if not sooner than that. And BYU's been in the top 15, if not the top 10, all season long seemingly, and Iowa State right there with them. So this is a big opportunity for BYU, and it's not going to be an easy game because Iowa State's coming in here thinking, okay, we got these guys on lockdown because they got huge wins last week. They picked up a pair of wins last week in Big 12 play, taking down, let's see, I'm going to check this. Yeah, they took down number 2 Houston at the time, 57-53 on Tuesday, and then blew out Oklahoma State on Saturday. So they're 2-1 in Big 12 play. They did lose their Big 12 opener at Oklahoma, 71-63, and Oklahoma is ranked 11th in the country. The Big 12 is going to be an absolute bloodbath all season long. As I mentioned on yesterday's podcast, BYU was the lone road team last Saturday to have won a road game in Big 12 play. All the other teams, home teams, won. So the biggest thing I feel like for BYU right now is hold serve on home court. What I mean by that is win your home games. Yes, you did lose that one to Cincinnati, so I put you behind the 8 ball a little bit here, but you cannot afford to lose this one to Iowa State, it feels like, and keep pace with the rest of the Big 12. Dropping to 1-3 in Big 12 play feels a lot different than being at 2-2 and really kind of in the thick of things in the Big 12 race. I'm not anticipating BYU to be a Big 12 contender this year. It'd be great if they turned it on and really became that, but right now I'm expecting BYU to kind of settle in around 500 for Big 12 play. But this is a game against Iowa State that is a chance for you to kind of right some of the wrongs you took from that Cincinnati game. It felt like against UCF, BYU learned their lessons from the Cincinnati and then obviously the Baylor losses and found a way to get the win over UCF. Now, can you do a similar type thing? You will have the home crowd behind you tonight, obviously, and you cannot afford to have the scoring or the scoring droughts that you have had at points this season, especially at home. Remember, against Cincinnati, I think there were there were at least 4 droughts of at least 2 minutes plus of BYU not scoring at points in that game. That's a big reason why they lost that game. Now, the final 10 minutes became an absolute debacle. We all know that. And leaving a guy who is as hot as Trevin Nell was on the bench for as long as he did. But I think Mark Pope has learned his lesson on that side of things. And like I said, I think BYU as a program learned a lot from those first 2 losses in Big 12 play. And now this is your first chance back at home to show that you can go out there and get the win. The road and the home slate for BYU is not going to be easy. All these Big 12 games are going to be dogfights, and you just got to find a way if you're BYU. It'd be great to see BYU shooting touch return. Now, they went 9 of 26 from 3 against UCF, and as Jay Drew pointed out, it was the first time this season BYU won a game making less than 10 three-pointers in this game. The other thing about it is BYU has got a stated goal of hoisting up at least 35 three-pointers in a game. This is a game that Iowa State, I think, comes in is going to absolutely try and slow things down and make sure that BYU doesn't get to that number. And obviously, these two programs, some of you might recall, their last meeting in 2013, we got the eye gouge. Remember, it was crazy stuff. Eric Mika got gouged by, it was DeAndre Kane, if I recall correctly, in that one. And then Melvin Ejim, I think was the other player that got ejected from this game. Yeah, Melvin Ejim apologized after he fouled out of this game. And, BYU fans, the student section in particular, when an opposing player fouls out, they do that famous left, right chant. Well, Melvin Ejim got to the bench, just kind of put his hand up, and I don't recall if I saw it live, but it was very clearly pointed out that he flipped the finger to the BYU student section. He apologized after the game, saying that the students found a way under my skin. He was very sorry for his emotions get the best of him. Now, 2013 and 2024, that's 11 years removed, but this has got the makings of one of those games that could shape up as one that could define BYU's run here in the Big 12. Can you defend your home court? Because as I said, you've got to be able to hold serve in Provo and pick up any road wins you can. Honestly, that road win over UCF is going to serve BYU very, very well. It feels like if they can continue to do their thing at home and maybe pick up a road win here or there along the way as well. But it just feels like the Big 12, the way things are shaking out right now, and I know that we're just now 4 games into Big 12 play, and there's 14 more to go beyond this. But the way things are shaking out right now is the best teams, the teams that are going to finish in the top half of the conference, are the teams that are going to win the vast majority of their home games and probably still a road win here and there. The nice part is BYU's already gotten a road win this season. Now can you get your first home win and really get back into the thick of things at 2-2, 500 on the conference record? Because, like I said, the 1-3 thing, it makes you feel like, okay, maybe this is a little bit more of a paper tiger for BYU basketball than we thought. If they're 2-2 and they've beaten a top 25 team in Iowa State, well, that would indicate that this is a program that has learned its lesson, as I mentioned. Those 2 losses to Cincinnati and Baylor coming in different circumstances, but different things that plagued them in those games. They learned from against UCF. Prove that you've learned, and they're going to be able to continue kind of keeping that momentum from that UCF game as you come home to face off against Iowa State. The other thing about this is BYU with these Tuesday games, a little bit of a disadvantage because they do not practice on Sundays. They may watch some film and whatnot, but they don't have actual on-court work. So BYU really only gets 1 day of work before they play once again, coming off that UCF game against Iowa State. Is that going to work to their advantage? Is it going to work to their detriment? We're going to find out, but I do look forward to this game. I've got a feeling that BYU is going to carry some of that momentum forward here from UCF, and I'm hopeful that they will be able to get the job done, because it would really, I think, engender a lot of good feelings for BYU if they can get back to 500 in the conference, and obviously they have a big road trip to Texas Tech on Saturday, so it feels like you've got to get this one today. I feel like if you can split games every week, and that may be too far of a stretch for BYU with regards to Big 12 play, but if you can go 1-1 each week in many respects, you're probably going to be an NCAA tournament team. Now, if you start having some 0-2 weeks, well, that's a different story. And if you start going 2-0, that's a really different story. But that's kind of got to be the goal right now. We've pointed out before the conference slate began that 9-9 for BYU in Big 12 play. So essentially, you just split games every single week in Big 12 play. That would get you to 500, and that would put you firmly in the NCAA tournament field. And the fact that the Big 12, 8 of their 14 teams, so more than half of the league right now, is ranked in the top 25, that is going to indicate you're going to have a lot of opportunities to bolster your resume. And even those quote-unquote quality losses, well, there's going to be plenty of those available as well. So looking forward to this game tonight. Would love for you guys' predictions on it. You can drop them in the notes below or send them to us on via social media as well. But I've got a feeling BYU grinds this one out. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, similar to what happened against UCF. I could see BYU, I'll just say this, if BYU gets above 75 points in this game, I think they win this game going away. Now, if you drop into the 60s, that's where it gets a little bit dicey in my mind with regards to BYU's chances. So, like I said, the big edge to this game is BYU's offense going to beat Iowa State's defense, or is the Iowa State Cyclone defense going to stifle BYU's offense? And I'll go a long way to determining who's going to win tonight's game. And it can really break down as simple as that, but we'll see. It'll be interesting, and I'm looking forward to the crowd out there at the Marriott Center and obviously checking things out as another top 25 team makes a trip to Provo. That's the fun part about the Big 12. Just a real quick aside. How many top-level teams are we privileged to see out here in Provo, Utah as members of the Big 12 Conference? It is a really, really fun thing to have in BYU's back pocket.